Also, wait, did you get my package yet that I sent?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, so you're still waiting in anticipation. You might get it tomorrow, I'd say, because I sent it on Tuesday, I want to say. Wait, when did I send it? No, I sent it on Monday, so you should have it soon. Fingers crossed.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Actually, when you get it, you have to like send me a video of you opening it, because it's not worth it without the reaction.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll do it.
I also say I am moving a few stuff around, so that's why there's like a sideways piano just in the background of my screen. It's not me trying to like channel any like inner attempt to be Austin Wintory or anything. It's just I have to move this.
Nice Yamaha. You have to do the play a tune perfectly.
It's not plugged in at the moment, so it's a dead piano. No.
What do I want my setup to look like? Yeah, that's fine.
Oh.
No. Why is my face so pale? Stop reflecting the sun.
Oh.
I need more shade. The blinds are closed. Stop.
I opened mine, and you know, at the beginning of doing all this, I used to like close everything down, get like very stringent lighting on me, and since then I think I've regressed in like my like preparedness for it. I've just been like, I'll just stick on OBS and Audition and just let it rip, like, you know. It's just, I don't care about the lighting, it's natural as it can be. What was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, I want to include pre-log in these because I feel like it's more enjoyable than just like jumping in and being like, hello everyone, welcome back. It's just like, but then at the same time, I want to talk about stuff that I don't want to put into the pre-log as well. Because I probably will end up cutting.
Welcome to the pre-show.
Yeah.
In the future, these will be Patreon exclusive.
Yeah. I do want to talk about something that we're going to have to cut out anyways, but I want to talk about... because I was going to talk about like the delay of like God of War or something. I think what was the other thing that came up this week that I wanted to look at? Oh yeah, the Crysis trilogy is being remastered. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I thought you liked Crysis.
Who plays Crysis? I do like Crysis, but why do I want to play... Firstly, I mean, the only one I consider replaying is 2. The first one, not interested. The third one is okay, but I think it launched pretty badly.
Why aren't you interested in the first one? Is there a specific reason, or is just it doesn't appeal?
It's just boring. It's just
Connor. This is blasphemous.
I can't remember having a good story. Like the second one, you jump in. There's the whole prophet stuff. The music is excellent. The story is excellent. The gameplay is excellent. I loved the second one to bits, but the third one's okay. But honestly, do I want to go back and play those games? In fact, it's directly links to Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's like, no, I've played these games. I don't need to go back. And like going back to Mass Effect 1, as you'll find out in the proper episode, is like it has ruined my memory of it. It's like I held this game up in esteem.
In fairness, the Legendary Edition makes some like huge changes to the first one that makes it so much better.
I will interrogate you about those exact changes. I'm sure.
Well, sure, we can dive into it because I played our playthrough. I suppose we just get into it. There's no need for an intro. I think we're already talking about it.
No, screw an intro.
I suppose we pretty much just mentioned this Unofficial Game Pass podcast. We talk about games each week, particularly the ones that are on Game Pass, hence the title. This week we're talking about Mass Effect 1, which is available through the EA Play version of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I don't know, do regular Game Pass subscribers, the ones who get like the $9.99 a month one, do they get EA Play as well, or is that an Ultimate exclusive?
No, regular Game Pass, I believe, has Mass Effect 1, but not Mass Effect 2 and 3. Those are on EA Play, which are through Ultimate. Yeah. I can't believe you caved on that intro.
I just want to make sure. It's just like, you're just those people who can't read the title, or like who just happen to stumble across like the 17th episode and wonder what they're listening to. I suppose, in hindsight, it's kind of a bit dumb, isn't it? But there you go. Yeah, so Mass Effect 1, I want to talk about it primarily because the Legendary Edition came out, and I've been loving the Legendary Edition, I have to say. And on the second hand as well, it's because I just really like Mass Effect. And I know that you said you'd played it before, but I don't think you don't have as much of an affinity to it as I would. Am I right?
I've played the whole original trilogy in the past. When they came out, I loved the first and the third one.
What a weird way of going about it, Connor.
No, there's probably a reason for that, and we'll get into that. And since completing them, I don't think I've gone back to them. There's like I loved the initial experience of them, but there's nothing there that I want to experience again, really.
I'm surprised. Did you? Okay, well, we'll have to talk about your, your heinous
No, I mean,
act of not liking
we'll go
2,
into it.
but
We'll go into it if you like.
Yeah.
Right. I think the way that I play these games is I do the main missions and where I think Shepard would go next. And I think the games BioWare is like specifically out for my type of play, in which like we're gonna punish you if you don't do all the side stuff.
2 especially, yeah.
And what happens if you don't, like, I've heard people say that the character development and the relationships in 2 is fantastic. And it's like, because I played it when I was quite young, I imagine that I probably had a lack of understanding or knowledge of games in general. So like at the end of Mass Effect 2, there's like a suicide mission, and basically all of my crew died.
Oh my god.
So going into Mass Effect 3, I had like 2 characters. Hold on. I know I had Ashley in Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, but she doesn't go with you in Mass Effect 2, so you had to have Ashley.
Literally everyone else died.
Yeah, but then how did you enjoy 3 so much then? Because like the whole point of 3, like I mean, at least for my playthroughs, like the first time I played through 2, I think some of my favorite characters were killed in the suicide mission. And then when it got to 3, like the story, like when you play 3 with like the knowledge of the previous 2 games and the characters that are involved in that, those stories land a lot more weight than if it's just the generic character they've put in place. So how did you end up enjoying 3 so much when like half those characters were like dead?
To be honest, like I have to speak from the perspective of me when I was younger. Now I can't really remember very well like how I played these games, but I remember really loving the combat and the environments in 3. I just remembered it came out. I got this like the special edition with all the different extras. I loved the multiplayer. I loved the conclusion. Well, not the very end, but I loved that it was the concluding game in the trilogy.
I feel like you just like
2,
it. I feel like you just like the ending of 3 because you got to stop playing it. That's what I'm getting at here. That's what I'm hearing.
No, I like Mass Effect. I didn't like 2 because it's like, who is the elusive man? What am I doing? Where are the Reapers? Like, I didn't get it. Like, why am I playing this game that's just the in-between for...
Connor, why are you expecting to know who a person is when their name is the elusive man?
But his name is ILL, not EL. So therefore he is like, I don't know, does that mean like he's an illusion? I don't know. It was weird.
I'm sure there's stuff in it. Like, there's definitely, like, BioWare is one of those companies that has, like, I'm sure it's, like, in some, like, obscure data pad on, like, some planet on the ground somewhere, like, that you could probably find it. Oh my god, what a mug, by the way. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is... Yeah. See, audio listeners, you're really missing out. Because not only have I dramatically changed my appearance, but I'm drinking out of like this huge glass mug, which I've taken to like cold brew tea because it is extremely hot in England at the moment, and I'm not dealing well with this heat. I don't know what the weather's like in Ireland.
Oh, it's thankfully sunny as well. You know, I've been enjoying it. Sun has been annoying because it's only ever sunny when I'm in work, which is like a good way to know if it's going to be a nice day or not. But this is one of the rare days where I'm not working, but I'm recording a podcast, so I can't go out into the sun. So it's like...
I would be enjoying the sun if I functioned in it and if I didn't like immediately burn.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair, because I feel like whenever I go outside, like people are always like, oh, we need to go out and do all this stuff and like while it's sunny out, and like I just go out, like when it's a sunny day, I just go from lounging in my room to like lounging outside. Like I just go and lie somewhere else. It's not like it's anything particularly big of note, I don't think.
Anyway, Mass Effect.
Yes.
Mass Effect is like, I know that it's one of your favorite franchises. So like, when did you first play Mass Effect 1?
Yeah, this is a good question. Because I think it's always going to be different for people. I played Mass Effect 1, so in Ireland, I'm not sure how it is over the UK. I've heard stuff about like A levels and all that, and people try to explain the British education system to me, and I still don't understand it because it's so confusing to me. But in Ireland, we pretty much stay in school until like, I mean, you can drop out at 16, but for the most part, most people stay in until they're around the age of 18, and then they finish and go to college. So when I was doing my leaving certificate, which is like our final exams before we go to college, I did what most people do when their exams come up and try to avoid studying for them as much as possible by just finding anything else to do. And at the time, there was a lot of talk about Mass Effect Andromeda, and I was kind of getting like, you know when you see like a game like that's very late on the series and you see other people's hype for it, and you want to experience that hype as well. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go play these games because this seems like a lot of fun. And up until that, I think I'd maybe heard like little rumblings of like Mass Effect because I wasn't huge into gaming at the time. I'd like taken a big break from it for years, and that's probably why I didn't get too involved in Mass Effect until then. But I picked up 1 and 2 altogether because they were like really cheap at the time. I think I got them for like €5 secondhand, the pair of them together, and then I got 3 later on because I wanted to play through them. And I remember just starting the first one, and we'll get on into the dated nature of the gameplay and like the graphics and whatnot a bit. Well, we might get onto it sooner than later, but when I was playing them, I had no perspective of what the other games looked like, so I didn't have anything to compare them to. So it was almost like I was back in 2007 starting with this game, and I had no idea what was going on. And I just, oh my god, it was just so good. Like, I always found that the characters always like made me laugh or whatever, even just through like some of their like just dialogue that you find like one of the bits that always sticks out to me is like when you're with Caden and Ashley and you first go to the to Cora's den in like the bottom of the Citadel, and like they walk in and like Ashley makes this line. She's like, oh, we travel like 10 million light years from Earth, and here it is, just men drooling over women dancing. And it's just like, it made me laugh. And then it's like, I think Caden says something like, I can see why people find it so popular here, like, you know, it's got quite the view. And then like Ashley's like, if you want to keep your tongue in your mouth, you better shut up or something. Like, it's just like really funny like dialogue that, you know, for the most part I hadn't really experienced with other games. Like, because when you play Halo, it's like the Marines like maybe say like get some, or like they like shout at like a grunt or an elite or something, and like you don't really get much out of that. Maybe you get the odd funny line, but like it felt like these characters they weren't just like NPCs following you around. It felt like they were actual people. And when that and especially at the time, I think when people do their exams, they tend to go into like, especially when it's like final year exams and there's all this pressure put on people about like, oh, this is the big exam for you and you need to go off and do well. Like, it's very easy for people to get quite distressed about that and like kind of go into their own little bubble. And so like Mass Effect is like this completely out there like sci-fi adventure that you can kind of just switch off from like everything else going on and still experience something that's relatable, but like also just telling this completely outrageous story. So that, I think that's what really drew it to me. And plus it has, I think for all its fault, Mass Effect always has like fantastic character interaction. I think like the way you meet characters, the way they talk. Granted, some of the like animations in the first game don't hold up, and that's a fine assumption to make. Like, that's a fine thing to make. It's from 2007. Like, but yeah, no, that's how I first got introduced to it, and I don't want to hog the time because I really am interested to see what you thought of it. Because wait, when did you first play it? Actually, of interest, was it when it came out in 2007?
Yeah, it was when it came out. I very vividly remember looking in like a an old Xbox magazine and like the upcoming games section, and it was like Assassin's Creed and Mass Effect, and I was like, oh, Assassin's Creed sounds really cool, but I like the sound of Mass Effect as well. I did end up getting both because I got like every game I wanted. That was before Game Pass, when you actually had to pester your family to buy you games. So I got the original Mass Effect, and at the time it was meant to be like this massive game. Like, you've never seen a game this huge. You can like go to all the different planets, and it's supposed to like occupy your time, you know, loads of hours. And then I remember turning around to my dad and I was like, oh, I completed it in 6 hours.
Surely not 6, Connor. That's a bit of an exaggeration.
That's how I remember it. It might have been 9. I don't know. But yeah, I think little me was probably playing on casual and treating it like Gears of War. and like very much going back to it, it is like, I think what's most prominent to me, because I've recently gone back and played the old Knights of the Old Republics that BioWare did before this. And you know, it's in their vein. Like when you play a Bethesda game, whether it's Fallout or Elder Scrolls, it feels very much the same, and so does Mass Effect 2, Knights of the Old Republic. But where the difference really is in this, and I know it's like sci-fi, so they've already done Star Wars. Now they create their own universe. But this is pretty much, at the time, I assume, like the most accessible BioWare game, because it threw you in, it gave you a lot of freedom at the beginning to go where you wanted to go. And also the combat wasn't just like a bar of things that you press and your character pulls out. It is you controlling the shooting on the battlefield. So it was like a monumental step forward for BioWare. Booting it up, I think the type of kind of third person cover based shooting, it feels very Gears of War-esque, with kind of telltale dialogue in between. I don't feel that they synthesize very well in this game. I often feel like the most interesting bits to me is the dialogue and the talking and decisions and the narrative, and the combat can get quite repetitive. That's me playing it now, having already played it years ago. I don't know how much I want to say as a preface, but basically I don't think I'd recommend this game now. I think I'm going to have loads of questions for you on exactly how the Legendary Edition updates it. But for anyone who hasn't played Mass Effect before, you basically take on the role of Commander Shepard, who, through like an attack that they investigate, and because of their kind of merit in their military achievements, is invited to become a Spectre of the Council, which is like this high honor that humans have never been graced with before. And then there's like this whole Lovecraftian narrative where there's like cosmic horror and the galaxy at stake. And yeah, it tells a fantastic narrative, but I mean it's really hard for me to talk about without going into just. I think that the main thing I take away is how much games have improved since then, and how much I think gamers probably took for granted, or take for granted now, or how much we put up with back then just because it was probably the norm. I think I love Combat Evolved, Halo Combat Evolved, and many people can't go back and play that game because it's dated, it doesn't hold your hand. It's repetitive, but that is one of my favorite games, and I think, to be honest, Combat Evolved for me has better game design than this Mass Effect does. But
I suppose they're
use
kind
that as
of
a jumping off point.
They are kind of two different subsects of a genre, though, really, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's a huge difference between shooter, which. For all the developments over the years, hasn't changed much. Really, you go from room to room shooting things. RPGs have found ways to become more accessible, and most of the time not all that successful. I'm not a big fan of certain developments like dialogue wheels, because they really take away from kind of the nuance of the old text boxes. I feel in most games. I'm always going to prefer like the old Fallout and Elder Scrolls, where your character isn't voiced, but you can like pick like 2 sentences of dialogue, as opposed to picking an option where it's just a few words. And then there's this thing, especially in Mass Effect, where at least 2 of the options, your character says the same thing and you get the same response. And so there's like this illusion of choice and decision, which isn't very appealing.
Yeah, that's definitely a
Yeah.
good show because I think they do improve on that in the later games, and I think again it's probably limitations of the time, because obviously there's so many branches you can put on a tree if that tree is already limited from the start, whereas like I get that. I think with Mass Effect 1 coming out in 2007, it's very much not that it's angling for like it's like you and I know better, like gamers now will know better than most that like when a game comes out at the beginning of a generation, it's only touching like the bare minimum of what that console can do, because it's set within the limitations of trying to get the most out of the console before it. So with that in mind, like 2 and 3 I think really stretch what that console, what the 360 at the time anyways, and the PS3 later was able to do. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, because if you look at something like Halo 3, graphically speaking, and probably intuitive wise, is a lot more put together than say something like Mass Effect, which if you put alongside it and you were to say what years did these come out, you might say Mass Effect came out in like 2003, 2004, because the graphics look so dated. And maybe that's just me looking back at it now, because I don't know, when you sent me on a picture I was like, is that the updated version? Because like some of the stuff looks a bit more detailed than how I remembered it being, because for a lot of the time, like I always just imagine like it's like a perfect example of this is like when you switch between the graphics of like Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary. It's like, oh my god, this detailed wall, and then just like a blob of concrete, and it's like, yeah, that's the difference. So that's what I kind of saw with it. But yeah, no, there's quite a number of changes, and I feel like the real reason, besides obviously the monetary factor for creating a remaster of like probably BioWare's most successful series of all time, is they wanted to update 1 because it was so dated. 2 and 3 hold up really well. And like everyone always says, like 1 has the best story, 2 has the best characters, 3 has the best combat. And for the most part, like I think that generally is true. Like everyone, it's like let's say for example, like I think I can't remember who I described this to, and maybe it was you, but I remember saying that like Mass Effect 1, whilst it's I mean in terms of like quality of gameplay wise, it's like when I want to sit down to watch Star Wars and I want to watch the whole series, I've got to watch the prequels first, unfortunately. So it's like you've got to play Mass Effect 1 to get the story started, and then you hop into 2 afterwards. Now I know, very controversial, probably very probably a bit harsh, but you do what you must. But that's how I'd look at it.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't imagine.
See,
many
if
people
anyone
do.
said that about Combat Evolved, I'd come swinging.
Yeah.
No, I love, like, before I tear this game to shreds on its on the parts that are dated, I just want to say I love the narrative, I love the characters, I love the design of all the different aliens. I mean, because basically what BioWare did with this, they've created like a sci-fi world where that there were different like kind of sci-fi shows that came out, like Farscape and things, where they had their own aliens, they had their own galactic conflict and everything. It does feel like I'm watching a sci-fi series. Like I'd watch a Mass Effect series. And just getting the synthesis of like world, characters, music, like it all matches beautifully. And I don't think anyone really has managed to make such an immersive, narrative-driven sci-fi world since. Like nothing on the level of Mass Effect. I think what they did, just the stars all aligned. I think the creative team at BioWare were kind of in their prime when, with Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, Mass Effect, like they were really, really strong games. So that needs to be said. The way I feel about BioWare now, I mean, I played Dragon Age Origins, I played Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age 2 I didn't like at all. Whereas the Origins was a masterpiece for me, really. I never played Andromeda. I mostly view this remaster as just cashing in, and it's nice to have a place where they're all collected. perhaps, for me who owned them all physically on my last gen console and would like a new updated, one game sitting on my Series X, it's perfect. But, when I first saw the remastered graphics of Mass Effect 1, I didn't even go like, that looks beautiful, because it's just like, yeah, that's how it looks like in my memory. And then I went back, I go back and I play Mass Effect 1 and it looks fine to me. Like I feel it's playable, apart from like quite a few questionable kind of visual glitches and bugs and things. And that may be just because this was the first time I didn't play as like the standard male shepherd. So like my hair was like glitching in and out the whole time. But I think that, it's nice to have it updated. I think it is noticeable when you go back and play the old one. It's like, actually, no, this doesn't look how I remembered it. And like Halo 2 is like that as well, as you said. So it's great that they're keeping these games alive. Actually, yeah, I just want to start asking you like how they've improved things. Now, like the first thing that really, really bugs me, and you'll know this, is the autosave function is like, it might autosave when you go on to a planet, but when you go into a cutscene and it's a very clear boss fight or something, the fact that there's no autosave there, and if you haven't saved the game, it sends you back like to the beginning of the planet if you haven't saved. I was like tearing my hair out. It just made me want to turn the game off every time it happened. You almost have to save every time you go around a corner just in case of what's around there. So please tell me they've introduced a more rigorous autosave function.
Yeah, no, that's all been adjusted and changed. Very much, I think, yeah, all the quality of life stuff has been changed. Like the bugs and like frustrating elements of the first game are pretty much gone at this stage, to be honest.
Good. And when I heard people moaning about Mass Effect 1, because people do, you listen to any kind of Xbox podcast that's talked about Mass Effect, and you'll hear people say, oh, the combat's so bad in comparison to the later games. Or they'll say, oh, the Mako controls so terribly. And I went on it, and it's like, personally, for me, I like kind of archaic games. The combat's fine. I like it. It's fun for me. It doesn't really need that. I mean, I can imagine it being modernized. It plays fine for me. I don't mind that. Even the Mako, I love how janky it controls. I just, I'm always like, it's this kind of tankish vehicle that you use to traverse planets, and it's got these thrusters that kind of boost you up in the air as you're driving along. And I love it. I'm like jumping all over the place when I'm driving it. I'm having a good time. The problem with the Mako is that it can't shoot enemies at all. Like every time you want to shoot an enemy in Mass Effect 1, like for some reason, if you get close to them, the gun doesn't shoot in the cursor. Like really bizarre stuff. It just doesn't work at all. And then obviously they've designed it for kind of large area traversal, because it doesn't turn very well. I mean, it's like a Halo Scorpion or something, and it sort of goes where you direct the thumbstick. But the problem with that is then they put you on bridges and like narrow corridors in the Mako, and it's like, you've created something which clearly works fine in large expansive spaces because you can get turned around, you can like flip over, like fine. But then you're putting me on a bridge where if I even touch the edge of it, like I'm going off, you're gonna kill me and send me back to my last save. Like, don't do that. I hate it. Don't. So yeah, hold on. Yeah, I'll ask you, what does the gunplay in the remastered edition feel like, and how does the Mako control?
Do you mean gunplay just in general combat, or the gun for the Mako?
General combat first, and then talk about the Mako.
Yeah, so the combat's updated, right? It's not phenomenal. It's still clunky like Mass Effect 1 is. But the main changes to it make it so that general combat feels a lot more satisfying. as opposed to like this whole because obviously Mass Effect 1's the only Mass Effect game to have this energy system as opposed to the reloading of 2 and 3. So for the most part, like I know in the original it's like this, say if you have your assault rifle out, it has like a little circle and that circle keeps expanding if you keep using it. Yeah, that's pretty much gone for the most part out of in the updated version. It's kind of like this more precise aiming technique, and it's a bit more, hey, it's a little bit easier, but I feel like I'm saying that because like you're almost fighting against the controls themselves in the original Mass Effect 1, that adds a level of difficulty. One of the big things they've changed, actually, just what class did you pick for your Shepard? Did you just pick regular soldier?
No, I think I've always picked infiltrator because I like feeling like a sniper. I think even years ago when I was younger, I was the sniper. So
yeah, like, so say if you pick infiltrator, like you'll notice it's extremely difficult to shoot with like the assault rifle or the shotgun, because they're not your like prescribed weapons for that class, and everyone who used to pick soldier would just have generally decent stats in all those weapons, and it would make those weapons viable. But if you pick, like I used to always pick adept, which is like this biotic like close range shotgun class, which made it impossible for me to use the sniper because you couldn't aim with it, and the reticle was literally just this huge circle on your screen, so getting a shot off with the sniper made no sense, and it had made no sense to even have the sniper and the assault rifle. But what they've done is they've rebalanced those classes to the point that you can still use all the weapons. It just maybe they won't be as good as if you were in a different class, but they're still a viable option. So say like if you needed to use your sniper, you can still use the sniper, and if you have a good aim, you'll still make the shot. But if your specialty is a shotgun, like if your specialty is a shotgun class, it's not going to affect your sniper if you're using it for this long range distance thing you need to do. It just won't be like the assault rifle won't be as viable of an option, say, unless you pick like soldier or something. So it's rebalanced that in a sense. So it means that not every like weapon is like, so it means that certain weapons aren't useless if you pick a certain class. So because that used to take a lot of the perception of choice away from the person as well, because if you wanted to play the game with all the weapons, you had to pick soldier. Now you can pick adept and, you know, still use all the weapons as well. So I think that's been a big change to the combat. But overall, like, there's obviously the ping systems and everything as well as all already implemented into Mass Effect 1 now, which kind of was really pushed in Mass Effect 2 and 3 more so than 1. In terms of the Mako, Mako has a completely redesigned overhaul. The handling's a lot better, and so is the aiming on it. It also sounds different, and I really like the new sound design of the Mako, particularly on the machine gun. There is an option though to use the old clunky controls as well, because I know some people have some like weird sadistic fetish for that as well, so they can go ahead and do that if they want to. But yeah, no, the new Mako controls are so much better on the Legendary Edition. Again, as I said, like quality of life changes they've made to 1 just mean that when you're going back to it, yes, there'll still be some clunky controls, but you're not like dreading having to go back and play 1 for the sake of the story. And actually, one thing I will say is that a really good thing I saw in the Legendary Edition, because I started to load up 2 there recently, just with a new character, because I wanted to play through the series with Femshep, who's voiced by Jennifer Hale, because she's a fantastic voice actress, and everyone that ever plays Mass Effect says play as Femshep. And this is no disrespect to Mark Meir, he's a perfectly fine voice actor, but everyone says that the Femshep voice actress, Jennifer Hale, is fantastic, and they're dead right. So I kicked up Mass Effect 2 because I wanted to start there, because I was itching to play Mass Effect 2. And there's a really good thing they do now. They have like almost a comic strip of recapping everything from Mass Effect 1, and you get to make the key decisions from Mass Effect 1 there. So like whether you choose to save Caden or Ashley, whether Rex dies or not, which we will discuss some blasphemous stuff that has been done in our playthroughs. And then, like, you know, whether you choose to let the council live or die, you know, certain bits like that, you can make those decisions without having to play the entire game. Because usually it used to be just like you'll know this if you came into like if like I think we one of our guys in the Discord server, Gware, I hope that's how how the name is pronounced, but
could be
Gware, you know, if they see this, reach out and tell us how we're pronouncing it. But they started on Mass Effect 3, and so like obviously there's just going to be a load of random stuff set up for you in Mass Effect 3, say if you don't know who's alive, you don't know who's dead, whatnot. So yeah, it allows you to have a certain level of control over your campaign branch, should you choose to start at a later game. So I thought that was really cool. But we should probably talk about one a bit more, because that is obviously the essence of this. I could gush over the Legendary Edition all day, but I'll throw the ball back into your court.
I mean, when you were talking about the combat, I mean the really prevalent things in my mind. I mean, I liked the abilities. I like the wheel that you hold with right bumper and you like select different abilities. They're helpful in combat, and generally, I like feeling like there's still part of that RPG thing, like with Dragon Age Origins where you have like abilities that you pick. I really find those satisfying, and I'm glad that like BioWare still incorporates those, and it's not just like a Gears of War just use guns thing. I think the way of changing weapons is really frustrating, having to pick up a wheel and then changing between the last two you had out. And again, the Gears of War comparison, I'm going to keep making it. If you can pick a weapon with a D-pad, like that's obviously going to be far more why have I forgotten that word?
Far more intuitive.
But anyway, yeah. So the really things that really bugged me is like when you throw a grenade and you have to press the button again to explode it. Like that just has me like pressing back, like come on. And the other thing is like when the heal isn't responsive, like with the Metagel or whatever it is, and it's like this game, when you can die a lot and be sent back to your last save, it's really important that the heal button is responsive. And yet there's just loads of times where it just won't let you heal because your character's either doing something else or I don't know. Like after a certain cutscene, you're quite close to a certain boss, and I'm like spamming Y, like come on, heal. So
I think I know exactly what you're on about as well.
If the buttons are more responsive in the Legendary Edition, then that gets a big thumbs up from me. But it also reminded me of something I said about Outriders. How I said that, and I think you said the system was like pulled directly from Destiny, but just in how intuitive picking things up were and going through your inventory. Like now here's going to be like where my huge rant is, because this was such a chore for me, is like when you pick up new things or when you level up and you go into your equipment and you've got to go down like all the weapons one by one. You choose like the best weapons for your squad mates. You choose the best weapon for you, and then you've got to reduce them all to Omnigel to get rid of them. And then you go into like the attachments to your weapon. You can't back out of it. You can't press B to back out, so you always have to go back to the attachment you want. Pressing A to equip an attachment sends you out of the menu, so you've got to go back in. You've got to go and look down all the different things you've got. You've got...
It's such a traumatic experience for you. I feel like I'm reliving it myself.
Well, it's just the fact that, most things, when you pick up an item in an RPG, it will say, this is... And like, when you go onto it, and it gives you the option to turn them all into Omnigel, it's like, I don't even know if they're going to be better than my weapon, because you're not even telling me. You're just telling me the name of the weapon. So, having those bars before you even pick something up is really important. I don't know. Every time I pick something up, it's like, oh, God, I've got to go into the menu again.
Yeah, no, I don't enjoy the nature of having to check your inventory either.
Like, what's that like in Legendary?
It's pretty much the same. There's not much they can do to change that. It's just the design of that at the time. 2 and 3 have a much more intuitive inventory system, like especially for customizing armor and whatnot. I think it's almost like, I think the whole idea of like not looting, but like getting different bits of armor and everything in like 2 and 3 is just completely gone. Like you buy most of your stuff with like credits that you get. Which is such a better system, and I'm glad they left it behind after 1, because it was just, it was one of the biggest pain. Because when I first played through Mass Effect 1, I had very little knowledge of what the whole inventory system was doing, and then you find that your inventory very quickly just go overweight, which for one thing, I hate the fact that like oh, good, Commander Shepard can hold like 50 rifles on his back, but 51 is too much. It's like the dude is already carrying an obscene amount of weapons. Like, one more is not going to make a difference. Just make the inventory space unlimited, like, because it's just going to end up frustrating people to like. Because there's not even an option in the, at least in the original. I'm not sure how this works in the Legendary Edition because I didn't come into this problem. But if you picked up, say, a really good weapon late game, but your inventory was already full, when you open up your inventory, you had to automatically reduce the most recent stuff to Omnigel. So you couldn't use it if you wanted to. You couldn't pick which bits to get rid of. You had to keep the awful stuff because it was already in your inventory. And get rid of the new stuff you got, which was a really stupid idea, and I'm not sure if they've changed that, but that was awful at the time. Yeah, inventory, like, gameplay is not this game's strong suit, very much so. Like, story is what story carries this thing, and like then some. Like, it's very much that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would be alright if you got all the loot after you left the planet. And before the next planet, you suited up with your favourite items or whatever. But the fact that you're just bombarded with all this loot, it's like going into the menu after I walk like 5 steps. It's like, oh, just come on.
But the armor of that is really important though as well. Like, it's really important that you pick up the loot as well, because like if you go into late game with like your starting armor, you will get demolished. Like, because it's just not good enough. Like any armor you find is particularly just get it on. Get it on you, like, don't care about how it looks. It's just the stats. It's like, you know, that those memes of like guys like a traffic cone on his head and like a trombone for a hand, and it's like, oh, me picking the highest like rated like armor in the inventory, not caring about how it looks. Like, that's literally what Mass Effect is in the first game.
Yeah, and I was so tired of going through the menus that I put the options to auto level up or like auto distribute my points. And that turned out to be a huge mistake.
Yeah, that's really
because bad. Because I checked about 2/3 of the way through the game just what it had put my points into. And I've been using an assault rifle all game because I picked Infiltrator, but then it gave me like a bonus specialization in assault rifles. I don't know how it works. And it had filled out everything pretty much level, but it had left my health and my assault rifle completely blank. It had put no points into either. I was like, well, I'm going to want health and assault rifle damage and stability, so I'm going to start leveling myself up, but I'm not doing my squads. Like, no way.
Yeah. Not yet.
Because there's just...
Yeah, the one thing, like, especially, like, the most important stuff for ME1 as well is to, like, literally load your points into, like, health and then your weapon specialty, and then after that it's like put it into charm and intimidate, because that's like the most important stuff for dialogue options in the game anyways, because like you can like, that's the one thing I always hated about Mass Effect 1 was because like it's like there's some like particular side missions at the beginning of the game that require you to have a certain level of points into like charm or intimidate that you just can't do until you get those points. And it's like, yeah, I get what they're going for. It's particularly egregious in later games where it's very much down to whether you pick Paragon or Renegade, because that really limits your choice, I find. At least in Mass Effect 1, if you have your points going into Intimidate and Charm, it's more kind of personalized in that sense. But yeah, no, the auto leveling up is a no-go unless it's for your squad.
Yeah, so take that warning if you've never played Mass Effect. Do not auto level up, because I was playing the whole game and I had some pretty dissatisfying stuff happen. I was like, what is going on? Is the game punishing me for not doing enough side missions and like getting Paragon and Renegade points? But I think it was just like the lack of charm points I had because I was auto leveling up. Like as you mentioned earlier, Rex died. Rex was in my Mass Effect 3 originally. Like, he survived the whole trilogy.
I was disgusted to hear this as well.
So and not only did Rex die, but Ashley killed him.
Yeah, in fairness, the Rex thing is really weird, because the first time I played through Mass Effect, Rex died in 1, and I was like, because I didn't understand the whole game, and Ashley was like, oh, I've seen him in 2. Oh, he'll just be back in the next game. But he doesn't come back. He's dead. Like, he's gone for the entire 3 games. And you've got like Erdnot Reeve, and you're like, I don't like Reeve. Like, give me back Rex.
Yeah, I mean, if I could have Garrus or Jack in Mass Effect 3, I'd definitely, retcon my whole Mass Effect 2 gameplay. But what I was left with was Ashley, and all she had to say to me at the beginning of the game was, because I had a relationship with her in the first one, but a relationship with the Jack in the second one, she was like, "I heard you've been sleeping with some bald criminal." And I was like, "Come on!"
Yeah, Ashley is actually like a huge like space racist in like Mass Effect 1 as well. Like it's really like she's always like, "I don't want these aliens on my ship." It's like, what? It's like, give off. Like I think the whole background of her story is like that. I think it's either her granddad or her dad was like, obviously, you know, the first contact war in Mass Effect, like between the Turians and the humans. I'm pretty sure like her granddad was like the one who like chose to surrender against the Turians. So like the name Williams is like synonymous with like, you know, bending the knee or licking the boot or whatever. So it's just like she just goes around hating aliens, and it's just like for like no other reason than like her granddad like chose not to genocidally or like maniacally go and kill them. Like it's the weirdest like stuff. Like, oh yeah, no, I for the most part, for the me being like a prepubescent boy, I left Caden behind in like when I played it when I was like 17. And then
so did I. Obviously.
And then when you come back to it, you're like bros before hoes, and you leave Ashley behind, and you keep bringing Caden with you. Like it's just like, no, I ain't leaving Caden behind. Caden's not a big racist. Like,
Yeah, no, definitely. And like the whole thing with this playthrough is that you get a sense of just like how much role playing is involved. Because I think Cyberpunk is like one of the most recent games to try and sell a game like this, you know, a whole new sci-fi world with characters that you interact with and have relationships with. But it completely fell flat with Cyberpunk. Like, it didn't work at all, just because the systems just weren't there. The choices, the scenarios weren't there at all. Not for me when I played through it. And in this game, it's like, oh my god, Ashley just killed Rex. And then it's like, oh, I've got to save Caden or Ashley. It's like, well, Ashley just killed Rex out of nowhere, so I guess she's got to die. And like that's like the fantastic thing about Mass Effect is like the characters make decisions, and then you make decisions based on, you know, informed choices based on what they've made. They like feel like living, breathing people in the universe. Like I can't say many games where that also feels like the case.
yeah.
Like, can you?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I don't think I've ever come across a game that has at least convinced me of its believability as much as Mass Effect has. And like when you boil it down to it, like Mass Effect 2 particularly is very much like there is a checklist of stuff you have to do in order for you to succeed. But even at that point, you still feel like you're making decisions and you're living through this story. And I think it's because of the believability of the characters that this level of choice can be taken away from you, and it won't feel like you're missing out on anything, or it won't feel like you're being hindered. Like one thing I noticed particularly, I remember seeing someone on Twitter like saying, "Wow, Mass Effect 1 really didn't know how to introduce characters," because it's just like you just walk up to Garrus and he's just like, "Oh hi, you must be Shepard. Yeah, I hate Saren too. Okay, let's go." And then it's just like, and it's like, yeah, that's the case. But then you think about it in real life, it's like, yeah, but like nobody, you don't meet people in real life like through like slow motion badass intro with like fire going off behind them. It's just like, yeah, that's how you would probably meet a person, is through like some mutual benefactor or like some mutual case. Like, so it makes sense to meet someone like Garrus or Rex or anything like that.
It's like me rocking up to Halo game night. It's like, oh, you're European too. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's literally it. Like, I mean, you don't meet like people like through this blaze of glory. Well, I mean, at least not everyone, but like there was there's one thing I really love about Mass Effect is you can go the full like 2 first games and never meet Garrus, which is hilarious because you can just because think about it this way: the first time you can meet Garrus in Mass Effect 1 is when you go to like help that doctor or whatever, like who Garrus is hunting down because she knows where Tali is, or she knows that that Fist knows where Tali is. You know where Garrus is, like in that med bay at the beginning.
I met Garrus before that.
No, I know you meet Garrus at the beginning before that trial, but he walks away. and then like
Yeah,
you meet him in the med bay before that. But like, you don't have to go and do that. You can go and meet Rex and then go and just take down Fist, or you don't even have to meet Rex. I don't think.
Really? I mean, I guess that you didn't have to meet Rex.
Because think about it, like, you don't need to find Garrus to know that Fist has info. You're going to go and find Fist anyways. And and Rex also has a like thing for Fist, so you can go and recruit him and Garrus because they both have something to figure out with this. You can choose to ignore both of them and just go to Fist, and then you'll find out the same info where Tali is, and then go find her, and then you'll have completely skipped Garrus, and Garrus doesn't join your squad for that entire game. And then you go into 2, in which Garrus is Archangel, and then you have a complete choice of whether you want to go and recruit Archangel to your team or not. So you don't even have to go and like see him, and then you just meet him on the moon of Palaven in like Mass Effect 3, and it's just like, oh hi, you're Shepard. Oh yeah, I think I remember hearing about you. It's like, yeah bro, like we were like one meeting away from being best buds. Like,
I find it always crazy when you play games and they have so many different branches that there are things you can completely miss out on. Like,
yeah.
That is like stellar game design. That's what I want to see, because what it basically does is it makes your experience with the game, it makes like your narrative truly unique, personal, and individual to you. I'll say it again. No game does it better than this, I don't think.
No, definitely not. I want to talk about, because obviously the game's a bit dated in terms of story wise, but there's some really funny stuff that happens in the game that's unintentionally funny, I think.
Right.
Like dialogue wise, I think I mentioned this to you the other day, but you know, after Eden Prime, where you go up to the beacon and you have that vision, and then you're knocked out and you just wake up in Dr. Chakwa's like med bay on the Normandy.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, like, you're just like, oh, I don't know what I saw, some like vision or something. And there's this real ominous music starting to build up in the background. And I don't know if this was intentional by them, but for some reason, as soon as the camera cuts away from you, like having this big moment, the music just completely cuts, and Chakwa's just like, oh yeah, I'll take that down in my notes. And it comes across like really sassy or some weird like punchline at the end of a joke that just shouldn't be a thing, but it's just always made me laugh. That, and like, I know that the team of BioWare have gone on saying, when like Ashley Williams is like, we carried you back to the Normandy, and you're like, oh, thank you so much or whatever, and then she like does this weird like awkward smile. They were like, they said like, oh, that's that was like how we knew we were able to make expression. I was just like, oh my god, the bar was so low for expression in games at that stage, like, because that is the weirdest looking smiles. Yeah, no, the game is just so beautiful in that sense as well. Like,
yeah, because they've managed to like put just enough campiness in there that it does feel like almost a sci-fi, or not sitcom, like sitcom that isn't like supposed to be funny, sort of thing. Where it's just like, or like a soap opera, let's say, like a sci-fi sort of thing. And there are those moments of comedy. I had a moment where it's like I could laugh like forever at that, and I can't remember what it was now. It was probably one of the things on the Citadel, because they're all hilarious.
Oh yeah, the Elcor stuff is just never. The Elcor are my favorite alien species, quite close to the Hanar. Oh, I presume you do you know who I'm talking about here? Because I can't just saying stuff.
I don't know. Jog my memory, but
so the Elcor are like, the ones where they're like, chastising rebuke, please don't say that. The ones that don't have any like they just have no sense of, like, they're not able to like express themselves through like like through words, like, so they have to like say what they're like feeling. It's like the funniest stuff ever when you go over, like, and especially that whole did you do the whole like consort side quest thing at the beginning?
I did it towards the end.
Okay.
I went looking for it because you told me about it. I was like, I'm gonna look for this.
The consort thing is so good. It's like my favorite like side quest in Mass Effect, because it's like one of the first side quests you get introduced to if you like are like searching every office when you get to the Citadel, and it builds the consort up to be like this huge like deity or figure in like the Mass Effect universe, but you never hear from her ever again after that side quest, and it's just so beautiful. Like, I think I mentioned to you, like, it's really stupid, like some of the stuff that'll just happen that you don't you don't intend to ever happen, but it's just the dialogue option you pick just makes the most weird thing happen. I think I mentioned this to you like last time we were speaking because I just thought it was so funny because I literally lost myself when I was like playing it. It's like the consort mission has you like going to talk to this General Septimus, who's like this former Turian general who like he's very much an incel. Like I feel like that's the word to describe him, like, because he's very much like, oh my god, I want the consort to love me, but she doesn't, so I'm going to make like these awful remarks about her to like everyone I meet. And it's just like it's very much like the weirdest thing ever. Like and first of all, I'm just like, oh, the consort was keeping an eye on Commander Shepard because of this really important issue that needs to be dealt with immediately. So it's just, you go down to the Core's den and meet Septimus and you're just like, oh, pull yourself together, stop being an absolute idiot. Like, and they're just like, yeah, I guess you're right. And then like the least convincing argument from Shepard will get him to like stop. And then you go back up to the consort. The consort's like, I bless you with these words of wisdom. And you're just like, she's just a walk on fortune cookie. Like, it's, and like, there's a dialogue option after she says these words of like, oh my god, you have a big future ahead of you. Which honestly, if the way you're saying it, if you play it near the end of the game, it's like, well, she's just been watching the news. Like, so it's just like there's no premonition to it at all. But there's an option in the dialogue wheel after that where you can be like, really, is that it? Like, you know, like, what the hell? And I clicked that assuming it was going to be like, oh, that's it. Like, you know, just kind of like making fun of her. But then the consort out of nowhere, for some reason, the next scene just cuts to like you and the consort with no clothes on, like having sex. And it's like, what the hell? Like, this is just not what this is not what I thought was going to happen when clicking this dialogue option. It's like, I didn't ask for this. It's so funny. And like,
I loved the sex scene because it was like, I'm femshep, so it's like, well, how is this going to work then? And it just cuts to her blue hand on a wall, like, audio listeners completely.
It's like it's ripped from like Titanic. It's just the Titanic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
No, it's fantastic. I think the one thing that because what's the planet that the matriarch's on?
Oh god, yeah.
The one beginning with V or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the snowy one, anyways.
Yeah, I went on that, and there's like a bit where, because like this game does not hold your hand. It is not intuitive where you're supposed to go. And by the way, the sprint, like holding A, it sucks. It really sucks. And the amount of elevators, like I'll just have a little rant. The amount of elevators and trams that are used for loading screens, like,
they're classics. Everyone loves the elevators, Connor.
Don't make me go on another elevator. Like, even when you go to like an ancient world where there's ruins, you like step into a rock room and like, oh, it's still an elevator.
Do you want to know how iconic the elevators are though on Mass Effect, Connor?
How?
They're so iconic that in the Legendary Edition, instead of just making the elevator ride shorter, they kept them the same length for all the banter in the elevator, but you have the option to skip. That's why people loved them so much.
Yeah, but the banter, like, I feel like I missed out on the good banter because it obviously matters which characters you take and where you take them. I don't think in my first playthrough I thought of taking Liara to the matriarch, which I really enjoyed that scene played out. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
There's like, that's all brilliant. Anyway, my point was, I got there, I didn't know what to do, so I walked forward. I was like, I'm gonna assume it's this way, and I went, and there was like restricted access door, so I plugged some Omnigel into it, and then like the sentry bots turned on me. I was like, oh, I've got to shoot them. And then like every guard in the place that I'm supposed to be friendly with started shooting me. I was like, well, I'm going to kill some humans now. Shot all them. And there was like the alien you spoke of, that they speak really funny. And I spoke to him before I did that. And he was like a vendor or whatever. And he talks like, oh, quietly, I will sell you goods and things. And then if you kill like... If you kill all the humans around him and all the guards, you can't kill him because he's just a vendor. And then if you speak to him afterwards, he will just say, nervously, I will keep my head down.
They're so well done. Like, it's so good.
I will say I did reload my save. Actually, I did reload my save and redo that. Because it was like, well, I wasn't supposed to do that. And then I ended up having to do it again because I died later on anyway.
Oh.
I would have completed this game so much sooner if I didn't keep dying and being sent back like half an hour to an hour.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No.
There's
It's good. Like if anyone's listened to this and you want to know whether you want to play the Legendary Edition, like go play it on Game Pass. See if it's your thing. I wouldn't play the whole game as it is on Game Pass because it's annoying. It's like it's really frustrating.
There's
you definitely get a feel for if you like it.
Yeah. Speaking of side quests for a second, there's one in which it's like I can't remember the full context of it because it's been a while since I played it, but there's a side quest that leads you into these caves, to which there's a bomb at the bottom. And it's like, this guy comes up on the screen, he's like, Commander Shepard, I know who you are. And you're just like, who the hell is this? Like, because you've never met them. And it's like, I'm going to make sure you die in this like cave with this bomb. And then you literally just disarm the bomb in like 5 seconds. And it's just like, and then the guy in the hologram's like, oh shit. And he just starts running. And the way in which you take him down, it's built up as this huge like fight in this side quest. You just get into the Mako and, you know, I think they meant for it to be something more, but I just ran him over and then that was it. It's just like, it was the weirdest like experience ever. I can't remember what is, there's some games before have done things where they've like built up this like huge massive like fight bar on the top of someone and then you like hit them with one hit and it's like, oh my god, they're dead, like as a joke. And I feel like they did that in a similar vein, but I was just not expecting it at all because it's so comical, because the Mako's physics is so weird in the first game that if you hit someone they actually go flying.
I love sending the Geth like flying over the horizon. It's the funniest thing.
So yeah, no, this game is so much fun. The dialogue is where it excels the most, and that's the only reason I think people bear playing it. Because you're not going back for this classy like gameplay. I feel like 3, whilst it has a good story, I feel like it definitely benefits from having a better gameplay than 1, because if it had the same gameplay as 1, it wouldn't be able to hold on its own 2 feet, I don't think. Yeah.
I wish it was a Telltale game, honestly. I wish it was a Telltale game where all the moments where you were actually fighting like characters and not just kind of mindless loads of Geth and like Rachni and stuff. The moments where you actually get into a room with like characters who talk to you and then you fight them, like those can stay. But like, because the story is so good, I love it. I love the especially like the enemy of the Reapers, just like the design of everything, how unique all the species are. Like, I love this narrative so much, and that's why it kind of lost me in 2, because it felt disjointed. Like in my mind there's like 1 and 3 which are like directly connected, and then like 2 is like a little sub story. I don't know why.
I will say the stories in 1, for the most part, I feel like there's not too much nuance into like whether you're doing the good or the good or the bad thing. Like, it's very much kind of like, yeah, this is the good thing to do, this is the bad thing. 2 elevates that to like a completely different level. Like, it's so good in how it does. There's one particular DLC mission, and this is going to be a spoiler for anyone that's listening who hasn't played this DLC, but I feel like it's worth talking about, because if you know in Mass Effect 3, the whole reason Shepard hasn't been out doing stuff in the galaxy is because he's grounded on Earth and like kind of on trial for stuff that he did. And to anyone who's like hasn't played this DLC, it's like, what the hell is Shepard on trial for? He literally like stopped the collectors. But there's a particular side mission, because if you play Mass Effect 2, there's not too much of the Reapers in Mass Effect 2 until like the end. It's very much Shepard versus the collectors, and I know the collectors are like similar to the Geth, of the fact that they're these indoctrinated individuals for the Reapers to wreak havoc on. But like, the Geth always had, like, they had Sovereign obviously in Mass Effect 1, so you had that overwhelming like Reaper threat. But there's a side mission in which you go to like this human moon that's in like the Terminus systems, which, if you pay attention to like the notes and dialogue on Mass Effect 1, you'll know that the Batarians and who are another alien species who live out in the Terminus systems. The Batarians and the humans don't get on well because the Batarians believe that humanity are taking over way too many colonies on the Terminus moons that are, for Batarians. And so in that, when you go over to that moon, you find out that the whole moon in the Terminus systems is indoctrinated by the Reapers. But you don't find that out until you're there, and then they knock you out, or they keep hold of you, and when you awake, it actually turns out there's 2 days until the Reapers make it to this mass relay in the system that would propel them towards the Citadel at a much greater pace than you had anticipated. So what you end up having to do is you end up having to destroy the mass relay in that sector to stop the Reapers from getting there, but at the same time you end up sacrificing the lives of every single Batarian in that system. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, you can see, like, obviously you need to do it to stop the Reapers, but you've just pretty much left an entire species to die. And it's not in the sense that you don't try as well. Shepard does try to, like, reach out to the Batarians, like, listen here, like, we need to go, but there's such a small amount of time that it gives them no chance to get out. So there's an actual sense of, like, consequence to your actions in the game, whether you wanted to or not. And it's quite horrifying in some senses. Like, and I think they, like, as you mentioned, I don't think there's any other game that could ever make me feel that worried about, fictional characters in a fictional universe that I've never met before. Like, particularly that mission in general. There's a load of other stuff. There's some stuff that hasn't aged well now in Mass Effect, I will say that, particularly in 2. And I mean this from a story perspective. But, like, that mission in particular with the Batarians always sticks clear with me because it's such an awful mission. Awful in the sense, like, of the stuff that you're doing, not the fact that it's poorly designed. But yeah, no, 1 was very much the blueprint for what could happen, and then 2 and 3 kind of took that and ran with it, really.
Yeah, I think what's really disappointing about the sort of morality. I mean, I think this was probably like a problem throughout the series, and it's probably lasting from their Star Wars games where you have kind of light side or dark side, and you go towards them in very much that Fable, are you a hero or villain morality system. And once you start going down the path of 1, you get more and more options to do that. So I'm sort of like unwillingly a renegade, even though really I'd like to kind of keep on the border and be renegade when I want to be, Paragon when I want to be. But the thing is, it's so binary that it's just so black and white. And once you get down one track, it's very hard to then switch. So I found that disappointing in the morality system overall. For, like, if I'm going to roleplay Shepard properly, and I roleplayed Shepard as, like, someone who will get something done. Like, they're essentially good, but they'll also get the job done. So they'll kill someone if they have to. But it's hard to get that nuance.
Yeah. No, whenever I play 1 especially, I always find myself going towards Paragon for the sole reason of it provides you with a pretty sort of, like, brilliant, like, skip in the boss fight at the end of the game. I'm not sure if you're aware of what can happen in the end of the game. So if your Paragon or Charm level is high enough, you can actually convince Saren that he is indoctrinated and he will kill himself. And it's like through this, it's actually a really fun, like, kind of cool thing that is in the game that you can kind of do, because if you kind of remember where you have to leave one of the crew behind, you'll remember the confrontation, your first confrontation with Sovereign, and then after that with Saren face to face, Saren will say, "I'm not indoctrinated. No, I still have control," and he's already questioning his, like, ability to keep control. And then he mentions afterwards that, like, Sovereign has, like, helped him see clearer. So you're actually able to, in certain sense, convince him of that for the first stage of the boss fight while he's on, like, the hover platform to, like, shoot himself, and then it just pretty much sends you down into that final boss fight area with the mutated Saren.
Yeah, I think I might have done that when I was younger, because that sounds familiar, but I hadn't remembered that. I think one of my favourite things was Fallout New Vegas getting like 100 in science and speech, and then you can sail through the whole game and like complete the game without like having to boss fight anyone, because generally that game's quite hard to get kind of the good weapons and power yourself up. And I always loved doing the speech and science stuff if you had enough points. So that's awesome when like a game rewards you for putting all your points into dialogue, because that's like my favorite thing.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think, if anything, obviously the mechanics don't hold up. I think if you want to experience the game and you know you like Mass Effect, maybe you've heard like some of the stuff we've been talking about, and you're like, yeah, I'd love to play that. This sounds fun. I would say it's worth buying the Legendary Edition. It's €60 at the moment. That's about €20 per game. And that's not to mention that also includes all the DLCs that are included in every one of the Mass Effect games as well. So you're getting a really good bargain for what for all the stuff you're getting. And I know there's, I think, a bit of a rumor about that the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer might be coming to Legendary Edition. Who knows? Hopefully. But yeah.
It's a much loved multiplayer, actually. I had a really, really good time playing that back in the day. I think you can choose your species. I think, do you get like different cards that you can collect and get different species or something? There was something like that.
It's very loot box generated, but for the most part, like, it allowed you to play as like female Turians, like Solarians, things that you never had the chance to play as, or even at least see in the main game. I
was a Krogan.
Yeah, like it
loved it.
It is a really enjoyable experience. Even if when you get a few friends together, it's very much a wave based as well. So it's PvE. There's no PvP in multiplayer, which would have been an interesting thing actually if they had a PvP for Mass Effect 3. Imagine with all the different classes. I feel like that would be kind of interesting if they did something like that. But obviously, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Yeah, I think if you have anything else you want to add before we finish up, because we've been going on for about hour 20 now.
I'm really, wow. I'm definitely in agreement that get the Legendary Edition. I mean, you can check it out on Game Pass beforehand, but I think there's like a 10% discount if you've got Ultimate Game Pass or EA Play. I'm personally not going to get the Legendary Edition because I've already played them. I don't feel I need to go back to them, and after playing Mass Effect 1, it's just like, oh god, it's so dated. So I don't feel necessarily that I need to go back to it, but anyone who hasn't experienced this like sci-fi universe, it is just, one of the peak franchises in gaming. I think it's definitely worth a shot if you've never tried it.
Yeah, for sure. With that being said, I suppose we'll leave it there. We have another episode coming up soon. We will be doing a collaboration with the Real Gamer Score podcast. So we will have Cameron and Matt on. We're looking forward to welcoming them. We'll be talking about Pogs, which is something that neither of us were. Or yes, sorry. And I think we'll probably talk a bit more in depth about sort of the whole scene of smaller indie games and whatnot on Game Pass as well. So that'll be an interesting episode. Look forward to having them on. That'll be coming out next week. Just a couple of bit of housekeeping before we finish up. If you want to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, those will all be linked down below. We have a Discord server in which we chat with our community about games and everything else related to games, not just Game Pass, but anything you may enjoy. So feel free to jump into that. It'll be the top link in the description. And with that being said, we will see you all next week.